more? See for yourself in this week's ad or go to bobwinescameliagardens.net. They're on Southeast 38th Street in Ocala, open daily till 4, Saturdays till 3, in the same blooming place since 1952.
Broadcasting from the Paddock Mall Studios, this is WOCA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
All right, 6 minutes after 11 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. You know, when you're a kid, you don't really realize some of the things that the people before you did, or the world importance of some of the things they did. Not that it was important, but it was connected to the importance, I guess is what I want to say. What I'm getting at, let me just be specific. My grandfather fought in World War I on the German side. Mm-hmm. And after the war, he knew that he didn't want to be there anymore. He didn't like what was happening over in Germany at that time, and came over to America, and that's why I'm an American. And I've never even been to Germany. However, that whole thing I just told you was something I've always known all my life, but I never really knew what happened, you know? Our next guest sort of fills in a lot of those blanks for me. He's got a book called The Good Cop. It does take place in the World War I years, and kind of the pre-Nazi Germany, right? Mm-hmm. Peter Steiner is who I'm talking about. He's the author of The Good Cop. Peter himself served in the Army in Germany. He's an artist, a professional cartoonist. He has created over 15,000 drawings for The New Yorker, The Weekly Standard, The Washington Times, and he's the creator of the blog Hopeless But Not Serious. And as an historian, he's helping me understand some of the things about my own grandfather. Isn't that kind of a cool thing? Peter Steiner, it's an honor to have you on the show. Good morning, sir.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Yeah, and you're getting some really good remarks on Amazon. So for what it's worth, that's always a good thing too.
That's nice. Yeah.
So I like the approach that you've used in telling a story that also helps us understand the history of a country. In this case, it's Germany, but it could easily be us, right? I mean, this could say something about all of us.
I think it does. I think it could, and that was part of what prompted me to write the book, because there are similarities between what went on in Germany then and what's going on here now.
And, okay, was that the origins of writing, or was your interest in history, or did it just happen to be similar? Like, did you notice it as you're writing the story? My gosh, this looks familiar.
Well, I noticed the problems that were arising in our own democracy during the run-up to the 2016 election, and it rang a bell for me because, having been a teacher of German literature and knowing something about German history, it all had happened before. So that kind of prompted me to write this novel.
Yeah. So tell us about. Let's dig into the story a little bit, and then we'll expand it to the implications of the story. And
okay.
Tell me, it starts out when? What year does it start out in?
It starts at the end of World War I, which is around 1919, and it runs through the Nazi era, focusing mainly on the early period when Hitler was an unknown ex-corporal who had fought in the First World War and had dreams in his head of power.
Mm-hmm. The blame that was being placed wrongly during those years is what led Hitler to be able to take over control, right? Blaming the I guess the economy that was happening in Germany at that time. Does that play a role in this story, and does it also help explain how Hitler was able to take the control?
Yeah, well, his blame that he cast on the Allies who had defeated Germany was not entirely wrong. Germany got a rough deal at the end of the war, and the Treaty of Versailles was brutal. It destroyed the German economy and, in a way, the German society. So there were reasons to be angry. But at the same time, Germany had a new constitution and a hopeful future. And Hitler set about to exploit the unhappiness with the treaty and to exploit the problems in the economy for his own benefit.
So tell me how you came up with Detective Will Geismeyer.
Well, actually, when I started writing the book, it was going to be about Maximilian, the artist, who is the first character we meet. And I wanted to write about somebody who was living in the society that was going awry, and the difficulty of remaining a moral and decent human being when the country you're living in is deviating to the dark side. Mm-hmm. And anyway, I had Maximilian is involved in a situation where the police have to come, and Willy Geismeyer is the officer on duty, and he shows up. And it occurred to me that the policeman would be the perfect one to explore how one behaves when things are going bad and it's dangerous to do the right thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and to my own family's story, my mother's father, he saw things going wrong that he also didn't like, and made a decision to move himself and his family over here before things got worse. And he was right; they did get worse. He moved over here in 1927, I think, or 26, something like that. Mm-hmm. So he could see it happening, and he could see that the laws themselves were not good.
Well, at that time the laws were fine, but nobody was obeying them. The constitutional government was very weak. They had little power behind them. The military had their own agenda. The police were filled with fascists. There was rioting in the streets. There was fighting in the streets, and the economy was a shambles. So things just went downhill.
And you gave us an insight into the actual Munich Post newspaper, which I didn't really know anything about.
Yeah, I didn't know anything about it either. I was surprised to learn about this newspaper and the heroic journalists who were fighting against Hitler the entire time he was on the scene. They all ended up either being sent to concentration camps or emigrating or hiding. And it reminded me again, it resonated with the attacks that our president is making on the press all the time. That was Hitler's tactic. Undermine the press, call them the lying press, the lying media, talk about fake news. I mean, that stuff was going on there then.
And then you got the character of Sophie. She's pretty interesting.
She is interesting. She's a journalist, and she's in a way fearless. She goes where the story takes her and tells her as she sees it, and pays a price too.
Mm-hmm. And when you were doing your research, you must have been very sad at some times to find out some of these facts, but you really did a good job putting them in your novel. It's very emotional.
Thank you. Well, actually, a lot of the facts were not unknown to me. My parents are both immigrants from Austria, and they came in 1938 and 39 because of what was going on there.
Just in the nick of time, yeah. Are you Jewish?
My father was Jewish.
Yeah, so he was smart. You see, that's amazing that he knew to get out of there, you know?
Well, in 38, it was clear. It was clear. There was you didn't have to be too smart to know. I mean, the trouble was too many people didn't think it could happen to them, didn't think it could happen there.
Yeah. Do you think that the difference between then and now has to do with what we're doing right now? The fact that we can get on the air and you can actually put something on internet and like back then, news took a lot longer to reach the people, and it was only controlled by a handful of people. Now, I mean, you can go on Twitter and you can be a news source.
Yeah, I don't find that reassuring, frankly. I mean, you can go on Twitter and be a news source. You can also go on Twitter and be a troll and be a disruptor.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you can organize for the good, but you can also organize evil. So
absolutely,
I don't think that's such a positive.
So, as the author of the book, were you more interested in a good story, or were you more interested in kind of creating a parallel, almost like a political commentary?
I think I was interested in both. I certainly wanted a good story, and that was, in a way, that was my first objective. But I also wanted the parallels to kind of emerge on their own. I didn't want to beat anybody over the head with it, but I wanted people to recognize how things can go bad.
Mm-hmm.
And you also address police corruption and racism within the story.
Yeah, that's right. It was all there. The police were well, Munich, where the story takes place, was kind of Nazi central. And the police many of them were fascists and supporters of Adolf Hitler or other fascist factions. So there was plenty of corruption.
It was so out in the open, though, as far as the racism that happened at that time. It was kind of, it's embarrassing to think that the fellow human beings didn't stand up to it.
Well, I asked myself, and this was part of the motivation for the book, how would I stand up to it if my life were put in danger by doing so?
Or your family's life.
Yeah, or your family's life.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're walking by a Jew being beaten by armed thugs, do you jump in and put your own life at risk, or do you look the other way?
Right.
I tend to think most of us would look the other way.
Well, it depends. I think if you have a family that they might threaten their family, you might. And that's what I mean about today's world, because what would happen today is you take your phone out and you videotape it and you put it up on the internet, and everybody would see it for what it is. I think that is one of the saving graces of today, is that we do have that, so that when we have women who've been abused by their bosses, or an innocent guy who got shot by a policeman who just wasn't thinking, or was racist, the fact that we can get that out on video is probably a good thing. I mean, it's as good as we can get with the press.
Yeah. I hope you're right.
You have a fascinating website, and you were gracious enough to post some of your political cartoons on the website. Did you ever get hammered for some of them? Or attacked? Really. No.
No, my website is a pretty small thing.
Yeah.
And, it doesn't get very widely seen, so no, I haven't gotten any grief. But even when I was publishing in newspapers, I rarely got grief. Once in a while, but not much.
Mm-hmm. And you do some amazing artwork also, and that has to be a different medium for you, a different genre.
It's completely different. It is completely different. First of all, it doesn't have anything to do with politics or political life or any of the fraud stuff. It's just got to do with beauty.
And when you were submitting your different cartoons to the different publications, were they suggesting to you what the theme would be for each of the cartoons, or did you come up with something and then give it to them?
It was that latter. I came up with something and offered it to them.
And it took you a couple of years.
No, it took me, a couple of years to get into the New Yorker. It certainly did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was a hard way to make a living. You know, as a freelance, you never know if you're going to sell anything, and if you sell it, are you going to get paid? So.
It is interesting looking at your website. The website Robin referenced, I just went to look at it. It's plsteiner.com, and you get a kind of an idea of how you've been able to make a difference using just a few words. I love political cartoons because of that. A few words and a little drawing, and all of a sudden you're making a point. The art of the political cartoon is almost lost because we've kind of stopped looking at newspapers. We're looking at everything online now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it used to be that every newspaper, even small ones, had their own cartoonist, and they would do cartoons about local issues, and it was a wide open field, and people took these things seriously. Now cartoons are syndicated, so that the cartoons you see in your daily paper, if you see them at all, are by somebody who doesn't know anything about local politics for the most part, and is interested more in the national and international scene.
You also talk about the finances, particularly the American stock market crash and the financial problems Germany was having.
Yeah, well, that was as soon as the economy went south, that was a real opportunity for Hitler, and he took advantage of it.
How did you end up serving in the German army?
Oh, I wasn't in the German army. I was in the American army.
Okay.
Oh, okay. I got that wrong. I thought when you served in Germany that you were in the German army.
No, I was in the American army in Germany.
Oh, I gotcha.
Oh, okay.
So that was my fault. The book is called The Good Cop. Peter Steiner is our guest, and he's the author. And I want to be fair to the book. And so let's go back to kind of, interview 101, because we were so distracted by the other elements of this interview, the idea that you're making political commentary that we should pay attention to. But I know that a lot of listeners are wanting to know about the book, because we kind of haven't done that. So again, Detective Willie Geismeyer, if I'm saying his name right.
That's right.
He's not happy. He's a police officer, right?
Yeah, he is.
And so he's not happy because he's got to uphold the law and be a law enforcer, but he's not so happy with the laws that are being made.
Well, he's not so happy with the laws as they're being applied. I mean, they're being applied selectively, and his superiors, who have their own agendas, are trying to force him to support their agenda, when all he really wants to do, and is obliged to do by his job, is to solve criminal activity, to solve and stop criminal activity. So he finds himself up against his superiors, and also eventually up against the political the tide, which is sweeping everybody towards fascism.
But he has scruples too. I mean, he sees what's going on, and he doesn't like the character of Hitler.
No, he doesn't. Yeah, he doesn't. He does have scruples, and he's faced with the dilemma. What do? You know, if you're a policeman, and the law goes bad, which is what was happening. Yeah. You had judges who were corrupt. You had policemen who were corrupt, and they were doing everything they could to advance their agenda, which was very often the Nazi agenda.
Yeah.
And he finds himself kind of alone in this battle to simply enforce the law.
And is this going to be a new series of books? This is the first book in the series?
Yeah, I think it will be. It'll be I'm working on the second one, so it'll be a series of at least 2.
Is Sophie?
I don't know how it'll go beyond that.
Is Sophie and Maria Christina going to be in the second one?
I would like to have them. They're very great. They're good characters, aren't they? I really like them very much, and I'd like them to be part of it somehow.
Again, the book is called The Good Cop, and it's written by Peter Steiner. I found it on Amazon, and Peter's website, if you want to check this out, it's way more than just the book, and the books, plural, that he's written. It's plsteiner.com. Peter, thank you so much for being on the air with us today. Very interesting conversation.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure.
You're welcome.
And I do want to say congratulations on your exhibit of cartoons in the Cartoon Museum in Krems, Austria.
Oh, thanks. That's nice. Yeah.
Yeah,
that's a little show. I was there.
That's pretty amazing. You must have had a great time there. I bet you're well respected.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. All right, we'll be right back.
Justice League Estate Sales. With great customer service in a time of need, liquidating a home and vehicle is hard enough. Let the Justice League Estate Sales family-owned team help. They have highly trained appraisers available to work with you. The Justice League Estate Sales name was inspired by a boy named Justice and the Autism Awareness Organization. Please visit www.justiceleagueestatesales.com for upcoming sales. And tune in every Tuesday at 11:20 a.m. on WOCA and learn how the team can help you. Two Men in a Truck believes every veteran should be recognized on Veterans Day. That's why Movers for Military is teaming up with WOCA to collect essential items to be delivered this Veterans Day to veterans being assisted by Veterans Helping Veterans USA. To donate items, drop them off at the WOCA studios Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. to help in aiding veterans and their families in crisis. This announcement has been brought to you by your friends at WOCA News Talk, The Source.
Ocala Magazine is the city magazine distributed throughout Ocala, Marion County, and the Villages, providing award-winning coverage of important issues for almost 40 years. Hi, I'm Philip Glassman, publisher of Ocala Magazine.